47.62, 47.62. So what does that number mean? 47% higher rates?
Of course, you go back to, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, exactly.
Initially, basically what the city would have to be in was a fairly small plant expansion at this location. We'd be in for the cost to increase the pipe size from, what was it, 24 to 30 inch or 18?
Something like that, right.
So basically you're upsizing pipe, so that's a fairly incremental cost. The lift station to receive total capacity is a larger wet well initially. So I think initially, and we'd have to work through those numbers, your first cost is going to be fairly small because you're just small incrementals.
Right.
Now, what you have to compare it to is, which there's no way to avoid it at some point in the future. We can't tell you exactly when because it's dependent upon growth. You're going to upsize the Bull Creek plant, which is going to require additional force main. It's going to require additional pumping systems. Ultimately, it could require, right now, with this basin included, it requires about a 1 million gallon plus overflow tank. All these costs are being delayed or reduced or avoided by sending the wastewater from this area to Edgerton. So you're going to pay eventually, as long as we're in the sewage business, we're going to pay some costs. It's that this is a way, since we're tagging on to a project that's already set by just upsizing, we can avoid some of those costs. But one way or the other, you're going to pay for this, pay to move this sewage.
At some point, that Gardner plan, if we don't partner with Edgerton, has to come to fruition based on all of our projections, everything that's come together, development and all those pieces. That $22 to $28 million estimate, that will come to fruition. Now, whether that's over the course of the next 25 to 40 years or when that is, it's there. There's no hiding from that number. We're just finding a way to lower that to that $18 to $20 million estimate. Right? Is that a good way to look at it?
That's about the right way to look at it, but it gets a little worse. If we do get development in this basin, it's going to happen real quick. And we're going to have to be expanding our plant. We're going to have to do all these other conveyance issues that we have in a fairly short time frame.
So it's possible we could have a bigger project hit our door faster than if we just were to partner up with Edgerton and have some capacity to bump into?
Yes.
Okay.
The next step again is to start looking at what those costs are, negotiating what we think our piece is and what they think their piece is, and then assessing whether or not that's still a valid approach. And that's the next decision. But you can't, until you have that decision, you can't do the design, since this is the design build, and so not to exceed, I'm assuming, or a maximum price. I'm assuming it's a maximum.
Yeah, the language is it's a stipulated fee, which means that it won't cost beyond whatever number we give them.
Right.
And
so it's impossible to make that until you know what the design actually.
That's right. There is the design piece, and then there's also the negotiation and permitting with Kansas Department of Health and Environment, who's interested in this also in terms of water quality issues.
Right, because of the Hillsdale.
That's right.
Base. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And is this revolving fund?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be funded by the state revolving fund.
State revolving fund. Okay.
Which necessitates the prevailing wage rate.
Right.
Go
ahead, Chris.
Jeff, you had mentioned that the cost of the project, if it was the Edgerton project, was 16 to 20 million. Is that the total cost of the Edgerton project, or is that the anticipated Gardner share of the Edgerton project?
This is the project cost for Gardner to have service at the Edgerton facility over the course of multiple phases of expansion. And those phases are in place so you can compare Kill Creek with Edgerton, because you can only expand Kill Creek to a certain size. You can't go smaller. So I
Right.
wanted to compare it, the same size expansion at Edgerton. Now, if for some reason there was some growth in those basins and it didn't necessitate all 3 phases of expansion, then that number doesn't come into play. It's a smaller number. You know, that's like when you saw those costs, they were distributed across those 3 phases fairly evenly. And so the other potential benefit to this, if you want to see it that way, is that you can pay for what you need and not pay for what you have to build at a minimum, which is the difference between what you need to do at Kill Creek, which is fine. And I'm not trying to be critical of what you have to do at Kill Creek. That's the way the industry works. But in this scenario, you pay a smaller amount up front to get the treatment level and the treatment capacity that you need, instead of paying for a lot of extra that you don't need today.
More of a pay-as-you-go versus
Sure.
front-loaded projects.
Let me throw it out so that it's a little more comparable as far as short-term. If this basin develops and we have to go through Bull Creek and up to Kill Creek plant, we'll have to do that 1.25 or 2.5 MGD expansion at Kill Creek and within a couple of years after that, as soon as we start getting the flow for that development. At the same time, we'll have to add another 36-inch pipe all the way from Kill Creek plant down to 167th Street. Have to add a second force main down to Bull Creek, add a second set of pumps at Bull Creek, and probably the 1-million-gallon storage tank. All of this as quickly as that basin starts to develop.
And the storage tank would be at Bull Creek, or would we have to site that?
That would be at Bull Creek.
Okay, so we've already gotten,
Yeah, it's already in the plan for Bull Creek
okay, so
to
it's
address
already,
all
that's
those
already
growth.
cited, so we don't have to consider land acquisition and so on.
Right, on that land acquisition. At the same time, if we go to Edgerton, we only have to add half an MGD at their plant. No, it's a quarter of an MGD actually for phase 1, because they were planning on .25, and we would add .25 to that from what I understand from Jeff for phase 1. So we're only building a half MGD and only paying for a quarter. And then we're going a lot less distance with the pumping. We're not pumping through a second station. We don't have the big 36-inch gravity main for, a mile and a quarter, mile and a half. All those things don't come into play until much later, at which time we will have dropped off 2 or 3 fairly large debt service payments, and it will help our cash flow very, very much in the long term. Short term, yeah, it's liable to hurt a little bit, but I don't think the pain up front is going to be anywhere near, 16 to 20 million. It'll be, much less than that. I'm not sure how much that'll be. Jeff might have a better idea than that on the first phase 1 cost. But
Yeah, if you look at the ranges that we were giving for the pipeline part, you'll have to do. You got to do the whole pipeline stuff right at the beginning, because you can't go back and change the pipe in the middle of the game. But the price range just to do that first phase, that 250,000 gallons a day of capacity, you might be talking about somewhere between $6 and $8 million. And the beauty of that is, if it turns out that's all you need, then you're done. And then you can do something else, somewhere else. The bigger numbers that I was throwing out are if you want to send all that flow and it fully develops and you send it all to Edgerton. That's where you end up in 10, 11 years, whatever it is. But the smaller number I'm talking about is what would be likely the upfront cost range.
What are the, you said there was interest, what are the companies or what size projects are interested in this that you had mentioned?
I'm sorry.
David, sorry. You had mentioned that there's interest in that area.
Oh,
What do you hear?
we've had some, there's some companies that are warehousing type operations that approach the city off and on in that sector. And, the problem we have is we don't have any way to sewer it. The only thing you can do is pump up to Holt Gravers Lift Station, which is up by the railroad tracks, pumping it through Bull Creek.
Move my head.
One second. I talk with my hand. I come by it honestly. So there's been some interest, I can't tell you exactly who all, but there have been constant, folks are interested in this area, they're watching, they're waiting. They come in and say, what's it gonna cost to get sewer, what's it gonna cost to get water?
They don't tell us who they are.
You know,
We don't know.
Somebody knows, I mean.
Somebody knows, they
Well,
don't know
who
that.
is that knows?
We work through the EDC. That's what Tom Reeder does with us.
And they won't tell us who these projects are, what the likelihood that they'll come here?
None of them have gotten far enough along that that's an issue at this point, so. But
But
the
they'll still-
cost of sewer is definitely an issue, and the cost of roads, and when you layer those two on, it makes developing in that area for the city of Garland very difficult at this time. And so finding an option like this to try and help facilitate reducing the cost of the development on the city and on the developer, I think that's the benefit beyond the stuff that's been discussed.
So it's a growth
It absolutely is.
catalyst.
It absolutely is.
And just remind me, what is the net impact of the Coleman facility to our finances?
Right now, about 350 homes is the equivalent. It's a bunch. I was gonna say.
With-
there were
with
one
the
or two
abatement?
homes. Bunch. With the abatement, yeah, that's with the abatement.
And what are the costs, though, of having a project of that size? I mean, that's the gross revenue created by the improved property, right? That's the property tax.
Right, but we didn't have to pay to improve that property, so.
I know, but you have, I mean, certainly, anytime you bring in a business or houses or residents, you still have increased costs for maintaining streets and police force and everything else, right? I mean, have we ever looked at those costs to see where we are?
It's negligible relative to the return on the property tax for that facility.
We haven't had to add any police officers because of it, right?
No, we didn't add any staff because of that facility, and we haven't changed our road maintenance costs
But I
for
mean,
that.
but that's gonna happen, right? If we plan to,
Not staff, no. Absolutely not, because of that one facility, no. Absolutely not.
For this project, though, since this is the one we're talking about, how would council want to proceed? Is there consensus to move forward, at least with the discussion with Edgerton, or say thanks but no thanks? That's really the point. That's the tipping point right now.
I absolutely think we need to move forward with it and go to the task force base and
Okay.
work out the agreements and whatever those terms come, because it's short-sighted not to at least take it into consideration and move it to the next phase.
Who else would like to serve on the task force with Chris?
I can do that.
Pete? Okay, perfect. All right. Well, Mike and Melissa get with Beth and
We'll tee it up.
get some times together and start the meeting and at least get some ideas of what we're going to see and get us an update as quickly as we can. So.
Right away.
don't we need a motion or something to formalize this project moving forward?
Okay.
I make a motion that we move forward with creating a task force that includes Heath Freeman and Chris Morrow to work with Edgerton on the financing costs of this project.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Morrow, that we appoint Chris Morrow and Heath Freeman to work with staff to develop a cost of project and cost sharing with the city of Edgerton for sewering the southwest portion of the city's growth area. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Very good.
Thank you.
Other updates this evening. Jeff?
I can give you a real quick update on the McClure family. This coming Wednesday will be 2 weeks since Nikki's terrible accident, and she continues to progress well. as well as to be expected, probably better than to be expected from what I understand. She is out of ICU now. Not sure when she'll be able to come home just yet, but she is walking some with assistance, talking quite a bit, writing some, recognizes many folks, as I understand. In fact, Matt mentioned that someone in the waiting room while we were all waiting for surgeries the day of the accident, somebody was taking pictures of everybody that was there. There was probably 20 plus people there, and she recognized and named all the individuals in those pictures, so that was certainly a good sign. So we're very, very happy and very pleased with that. Also understand that baby McClure will probably get to come home tomorrow.
Wow.
So that's sooner than expected as well. So progress continues, certainly. Appreciate all your support and thoughts and prayers, as well as everybody else from the community. It's made a big difference and has meant a lot to the McClures and their families. So thank you.
It's great news. It's an amazing outcome, considering the accident condition of the vehicle. It's truly miraculous. So thank you very much for the updates, and thanks for keeping them coming. Anyone else? Council? Oh, David.
Just a couple of reminder, we have the public meeting for the Main and Center Street project in the lobby of City Hall between this Thursday,
Okay.
between 5:30 and 6:30. Another item too, just a quick update on the White Drive sewer, which is the city sewer that's needed to be upgraded to receive the school district project. Had a public meeting back in December, had probably about 15 people show up. We had three options. I think we have Melissa, there's a PDF that hopefully will come up cleanly. Yeah, it's in the presentations.
Go ahead, talk, and I'll get it up.
Okay. Three options. One is to replace the existing sewer pipe, where you pull the old one, put a new one in. Another one is to put a parallel pipe in following more or less the same alignment. Another one is to kick out, as you can see, the brownish option is to replace the existing. The bluish option is the parallel sewer, and then the purple option is to basically kick out into the undeveloped property and then go down the street. Relative cost to do the brown was about $835. By the time you add in the street restoration for the blue, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of $900,000 for the total project, and then the one that kicks out to the east is about $910, including street restoration. The advantage of the purple option is it's the least disruptive for people. We're basically going down the street. We'll have to mill and overlay Washington Street when it's done, but it hasn't been done for quite a while anyway. We did alter the purple line based on the property owner of the commercial property. He said originally we were going to go shooting up between CMI and Casey's. He says, look, if you move it over, it'll sure work better for me. So that will probably make us a much more negotiable issue.
Right away.
Proceeding with a design based on the purple line should be ready to come back for award in June, which will keep us on track with the commitment we made with the school district for this sewer. So we're moving in final design. We'll be coming back to you with some easements as they're negotiated, and so just an update as to where we are right now. That's all I have.
I have one thing. Mike, could you tell us who the 4 employees are that got the pay raises and what those amounts were?
Nope,
Why not?
because it's personnel matter.
You said that in the newspaper article that we have a right to know, and it is an open record.
And you were told that if you were to call or come in, I would have given you that information.
I don't want to have any secrets that we can't.
There were no
share with
secrets, the
everybody.
rest of the council knows.
Well, then, are you saying that I have to fill out a open records request?
No, I said you could call or come in.
Well, just tell us right now.
Nope.
And can you tell us why these people are given raises?
That's a personnel matter.
And you observed these people for how many days before you gave them raises?
This has been discussed and...
When? When was
it's
this discussed?
Just now.
Well,
and,
I'm not,
and it is-
I still have some additional questions.
Well, then you can schedule a time with Mike and have those questions.
Does anyone else not want to know why we weren't informed of these pay raises? Does anyone else know about the pay raises? Do you know?
I had a conversation, yes.
Well, can you just tell us all right now?
I know.
Why not?
I had a meeting with Mike, where he called and informed me, and obviously you chose not to do that. That's your choice.
Do you know the answer?
I had a meeting with Mike Press as well. He was very forthcoming in the meeting.
Well, then just,
I would agree.
Okay, so this matters,
So just say so? I was raised to think that matters of employment and what people made, I don't know, is unsavory. Is it public record? Yes, it absolutely is. But, I mean, if you want to get personnel answers, you talk to the appropriate person in the appropriate setting.
let me ask you this. At one point, on the 17th, you became our assistant, or interim city administrator, right?
Correct.
But Melissa's pay did not go down at all for the next 25 or 26 days. And you both basically held the same title and were paid the same rate, effectively, as what she made before. So we actually had two people, did we not, from the 17th of October to the 14th of November that were being paid as interim city administrators?
We worked through the issue as, I don't know exactly the
Well, I
timing.
mean, I can tell you from the information that Mary Bush gave me, Melissa's pay...
Is there a point?
The
to this?
point
I guess
is
the question is-
transparency. I think everybody should...
Transparency, what transparency?
I think everybody that watches this video should know who is making the pay raises and why everyone else...
Okay, can I ask a question? If the issue is the pay raises, are you questioning whether Mike operated within the policy of being able to offer pay raises? Because if that's what you're questioning, then I think as a council, we can have a discussion on whether that policy is adequate.
Well, according...
If it's not, then we can all decide that. But if he operated within the guidelines of the existing policy, then he's done what we pay him to do.
The ordinance that's on the books, since 1990 says that all pay raises have to be approved within range by the city council.
The ordinance that I read says that the city administrator has the authority to
both of
make
them
adjustments within the pay range that was approved by the council. So the pay range was approved by the council, the adjustments were made within that range, and therefore the city administrator...
Well, then we have two conflicting ordinances.
That's a different discussion.
And in addition to that, the personnel policy says that absolutely under no circumstances does a person who has...
It says absolutely under no circumstances?
Well, it says in no case, I believe is how it's phrased, will a person whose position, or a person who has been demoted, go back to the same pay, or any reason that they would not go back to the same pay that they were previous to the promotion. So in this case, the personnel policy specifically states that she should have gone back to her old pay.
And she did?
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, I believe she got a $9,000 raise. Her old pay was $9,000 less than what her current pay is.
I'm not going to go into the details with you. I will tell you that we made the appropriate adjustments within precedent, within policy. I've been an administrator for 35 years. I gave thousands of raises at the county within policy without any governing body member questioning any of that.
Well, I think have you read all the ordinances? I think it's ordinance 2.0140. It states that council members that pay raises within range...
Maybe I can ask you a question. If you were interested in knowing all this, why didn't you call me or come in?
You offered me that opportunity. I don't like doing things in a secret manner.
It wasn't secret.
Then it isn't secret. You've already acknowledged it as a public record, so just...
Salaries are a public record.
How?
How it got there is not.
Is there any other council member that wishes to entertain continuance of this discussion in a public meeting, or is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Morrow, that we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
What do you think? I'll do it. Good job.
Congratulations on your son. Oh, thank you. I saw that on your Facebook. I was like, wow.